Welcome to Disambiguation. I'm your host, Michael Fawcett, and this is a bonus edition related to the Biden administration executive order for regulating AI. The executive order was called, or is called, Safe, Secure, and Trustworthy Artificial Intelligence, and it invokes the Korean War era Defense Production Act as its legal basis. So AI regulation is a hot topic, and yesterday uh, the U.S. finally got in the game. The EU, among other organizations, certainly other countries, has already been moving down the AI regulation path with the AI Act, and the EU's AI Act, which was considered the world's first comprehensive AI law. Is in final stages of approval. It was proposed in April of 21, passed the European Parliament in June of this year. It's currently in its what they call the trilogue stage of EU legislative process. It's where the three organizations, the European Commission, the Council, European Union, and the Parliament, reconcile their different drafts and come up with the final act. The act's expected to be finalized by the end of this year, and likely to be adopted before the June 2024 parliamentary elections. After its adoption, there'll be a transition period of at least 18 months before it becomes fully enforced. And it's expected to come into force about 2 years after it's approved, so potentially by the end of 2025 or early 2026. So the U.S. order, and remember, executive orders are issued by the administration under some legal authority. In this case, like I said, it's the Korean War era Defense Production Act. And it's not permanent legislation. It is something that exists and can continue to exist as long as the executive branch allows that to be so, which of course means that, in an election, if the incumbent's not reelected, then it could perhaps go away. So it's a little less permanent solution than what you'd see if it was a law and act passed by Congress. So it does have several provisions, and it's fairly expansive, although some of the details are still, will be worked out in some of the different agencies. It establishes new standards for AI safety and security. It's designed to protect Americans from potential risk of AI systems. For example, orders development of a national security memorandum to ensure that U.S. military and intelligence community use AI safely, ethically, and effectively. Department of Homeland Security will play a critical role in ensuring AI use is safe and secure nationwide. It addresses privacy concerns. So the order protects Americans' privacy by requiring developers of AI systems to share their safety test results and other critical information with the U.S. government. It also develops guidelines for federal agencies to evaluate the effectiveness of privacy preserving techniques used in AI systems. Congress is called on to pass bipartisan digital data privacy legislation that safeguards the privacy of all Americans, with particular focus on children's privacy. Although, let's be honest, that's still a long shot. We've been talking about privacy legislation in the U.S. for many years. Of course, the EU passed the GDPR Act several years ago and has been enforcing that. Several U.S. states have laws, California particularly, but there are others as well. But we've not been able to put together a bipartisan effort to get a privacy bill passed that would address some of these concerns. So again, we'll see how that goes, but it is certainly a concern. Equity and civil rights. The executive order advances equity and civil rights by addressing algorithmic discrimination, and this is certainly something that's a big part of the conversation around AI, around bias and fairness. Discrimination, that sort of thing, the idea is to ensure fairness when utilizing AI technology. It provides some guidelines for landlords, federal benefits programs, contracts on how to prevent AI from causing exacerbating discrimination. Federal agencies get clear guidance on preventing the use of AI algorithms that may perpetuate discrimination. Department of Justice and federal civil rights offices will collaborate to combat algorithmic discrimination. We need some best practices there for investigating, prosecuting civil rights violations. It emphasizes the importance of fairness in the criminal justice system, and this is something that has been a hot topic around some of the sentencing algorithms that have been in use in the past and were found to be fairly discriminatory. So it establishes some best practices to ensure that AI is used responsibly in sentencing, parole, probation, risk assessment, surveillance, crime forecasting, predictive policing, and forensic analysis. Under the topic of responsible innovation and competition, the executive order promotes responsible innovation, competition, collaboration by making investments in AI related education, training, development, research, and also capacity. It encourages the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, to exercise its authority to promote competition, to encourage AI research. The National AI Research Resource will be piloted, providing researchers and students with access to AI resources and data. It's going to provide grants for AI research in vital areas like healthcare or climate change, and those will be expanded over time. Executive order promotes fair and open and competitive AI ecosystem. Small developers and entrepreneurs will get access to technical assistance and resources to commercialize AI breakthroughs. The Federal Trade Commission will be encouraged to exercise its authority to help ensure a level playing field for competition. The executive order also recognizes a need to address emerging risk associated with AI. In particular, it aims to protect against the misuse of AI in engineering dangerous biological materials. So it sets new standards for biological synthesis screening so that it can help mitigate potential risks posed by AI generated materials. Agencies funding life science projects will be required to adhere to these standards as well as conditions for federal funding. Additionally, the Department of Commerce is going to roll out guidance to ensure that all AI generated content, including audio, imagery, video, and text, is somehow watermarked. There have been several initiatives ongoing around that. So, I do expect to see some movement there. It'll enable individuals to distinguish between content created by humans and content generated by AI, which should help, or at least the theory is, help to prevent or combat, some of the potential risk around deep fakes and how that could be used to, as misinformation to influence everything from elections on. So, from an international perspective, it charges the State Department in collaboration with Commerce Department to lead some efforts to establish international frameworks for responsible use of AI. And this would involve bilateral, multilateral, and multi-stakeholder engagements to ensure safe and trustworthy deployment of AI worldwide. It talks about responsible government use of AI, so recognizes certainly this will be an opportunity, although many agencies have not jumped in yet. But there is a great potential there for improving operations and services. So it does acknowledge the risk with AI deployment, like discrimination and unsafe decision making. So the intent is to ensure responsible government use of AI, and it directs agencies to establish clear standards for use, protect individuals' rights and safety, and strengthen AI deployment. And honestly, this is this is in alignment with if you listen to the governance and compliance episode last week, with we discussed a lot about AI governments, and one of the biggest concepts that I took out of that was that from a strategic perspective, you need to be intentional about what you're doing with AI and what strategy, what governance, compliance standards you want to put in place, and that should happen before you deploy the AI. So that I think this order is in alignment with that for government use of AI. To expedite the acquisition of AI products and services, the order also calls for more rapid and efficient contracting procedures. It emphasizes the importance of hiring AI professionals across government agencies to, enhance AI capabilities and knowledge. There's also a section that talks about labor market impact research. Obviously another area that we've had a lot of discussion about is the idea that there are some potential risk for job displacement or shifts, and so this will direct agencies to conduct research on the impact of AI on labor market. Specific details were pretty light on this one though, so expect more on that from the agencies. Um, and it's important to note that while the executive order, sets strong direction, it's like I said, not a permanent solution. And from a from a U.S. Congress perspective, there have been and is ongoing, some activity there, although most of it is still pretty early stage. They are working on some regulation. There's development of legislative framework for AI governance, focus on principles like transparency, privacy, non-discrimination. Um, this is supported by the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, which has proposed a blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights, which outlines 5 principles to guide the design, use, and deployment of automated systems. There's several proposals that have been put forward, legislative proposals. There's one about the creation of an independent federal office to oversee AI, requirements for licensing of AI technology, liability for civil rights and privacy violations. Most of these proposals, though, are still really early stage, like I said, and they lack a lot of detail. Uh, for instance, Senators Graham and Warren have proposed a bipartisan bill that would create a digital consumer protection commission, which aims to prevent online harm, promote free speech and competition, guard American privacy, and protect national security. In addition to these broad proposals, there are a few more narrow targeted bills. One bill would prohibit the U.S. government from using automated systems to launch nuclear weapons without human input, for example. While another would require AI generated images and political ads be clearly labeled. This ties back to that idea around how do we, control misinformation and prevent deep fakes from influencing the election outcome. Members of Congress have shown, a lot of interest in passing laws on AI, but there's not really yet an overall strategy and framework on how that would come together. There's proposals to establish licensing processes for sophisticated models, independent federal office to oversee AI. I mentioned that, and that I think is one that would go a long way to helping get all of these regulations into more of a strategic framework. And then, establishing some liability for companies that violate privacy and civil rights would also be an important one. Despite all this effort, though, it's not an easy task. It's complex, challenging, difficult to understand, and certainly they have to rely on and bring in outside experts. And certainly, no one in Congress is particularly an expert in AI. And it has a wide range of issues that they have to address. Everything from environmental costs of training large models to concern over privacy, surveillance, medical, national security, misinformation, all those things. So Congress is actively working on AI regulation. Process is still very early. It faces some challenges, of course. Even just getting agreement, bipartisan agreement, will be complex. The ongoing discussions and proposals indicate a strong commitment, and certainly that's important. And that ties directly into this executive order as well, so that we can, try to come up with a way to, have safe, effective, ways respecting of privacy, respecting civil rights, trying to prevent bias and discrimination in algorithms and large language models and systems. So all those things, it is progress, and I think it's exciting to see the order itself come out. I mean, I said it's not a permanent solution, obviously, but it is movement, and I think that part is very important, and hopefully will be a catalyst for additional regulation to actually get through Congress, be passed, and be put into to effect, which is definitely what we need. So anyway, that's the summary. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what was going on from a regulatory perspective. And like I said, I think that's a very important one we need to stay on top of. So hopefully that helps. I also published on the Arion Research blog, I published a little summary of the executive order as well. If you'd like to give that a read, go to the arionresearch.com/blog, and you can take a look at that. So thanks for joining, and hopefully this has been beneficial, useful for you. Thank you.